is here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
The man I have the greatest respect for in the House of Representatives when he comes under attack by Republicans and Democrats alike. He is a constitutional conservative. He's been in the House for some time. He's under constant attack. And that's Thomas Massie from Kentucky. Thomas Massie, what the hell is going on here?
We just shot ourselves in the foot is what's going on.
I'm watching this. We're really going to relitigate the speaker issue when the Democrats are literally destroying this country? And the House of Representatives has done more right now than any other body we have to take this guy on, Biden and the Democrat Party. And you have 8 members, including Nancy Mace, who thinks McCarthy's too conservative. You have 8 members who join Hakeem Jeffries, who orders his Democrats, and they go right down the line to oust McCarthy. We have 8 members who are going on. We have $33 trillion in debt. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And there's the biggest cut in my lifetime, 30% being offered, a 30% cut in domestic discretionary spend. You've been there a while. Have you ever had a proposal like that before?
We've never had a proposal like this. And let me tell you, I'm not saying this as an excuse, but just to tell you how long our odds are up here. We're in control of 1/3 of the government by a 1% majority. And we have been putting bills on the floor. We have been passing bills. I'd love to litigate some of the claims that were made and have been made publicly about this January deal because I was in the room helping negotiate that deal. And let me tell you one thing I didn't get a chance to say in my speech on the floor, but I'd love to say it on your show. There's supposedly this religion against any kind of continuing resolution whatsoever by the rebels. I use that term affectionately when I call somebody a rebel, but in this case, they're not being very helpful.
I'm sorry, I call them anarchists. Go right ahead.
Well, in January, part of the deal with Kevin McCarthy for him to become speaker was a CR at 98% if we didn't get the 12 bills done. That was baked into the deal. And so now they're acting like any kind of CR. By the way, the CR that he put on the floor was at 92%. An 8% cut across the board. It was a 30% cut to everything but military, but on average an 8% cut. And what he had agreed to in January was a CR at 98%. So he exceeded the January deal when he put that CR on the floor. And there are people who said they voted against it because they've got some religion against, funding the government for a little bit of time so we can finish our job. And I want to remind your listeners that, I'm not out in the news that much, so they may not know who I am, but I'm the guy who came to Washington, D.C. during COVID on March 27, 2020, and made all of these folks show up and vote on the CARES Act. And they hated my guts. That was $2 trillion of Nancy Pelosi spending. You were with me, Mark. I remember it. But the president was against me, called me up and screamed at me.
That was President Trump.
Yeah, President Trump screamed at me, said he would work against me, said I should be thrown out of the party for merely...
And I said, absolutely not. I support this man. Somebody's talking about the debt. Now, let me ask you something, Congressman Massie.
Yeah.
Did you have support from Matt Gaetz? Just yes or no?
No.
I've never heard these guys talk about the debt with such a passion before. Have you? Honestly.
I have no. That's the funny thing here. By the way, Matt Gaetz is a friend. I have campaigned for him, but I had support. I don't want to single him out. I had support from nobody, zero. If I so much as went to the bathroom while I was sitting, it left the floor to go to the bathroom, nobody would take my position at the microphone to demand a recorded vote 3 years ago when the CARES Act came up. Mm-hmm. That's $2 trillion, and now they're saying they're vacating Speaker McCarthy over $100 billion. I'm like, where were you when there was the CARES Act? But anyways, I was also a co-author of the motion to vacate John Boehner. I'm the only member still serving who co-sponsored and co-authored the motion to vacate John Boehner. Never voted for John Boehner. Never voted for Paul Ryan. And yet I can tell you this motion to vacate Speaker McCarthy is a horrible idea. He did something that Paul Ryan or John Boehner would never think to do. He put three of us, Chip Roy, Ralph Norman, and myself, on the Rules Committee. He gave us a blocking position on the committee that's known as the Speakers Committee, so that we could not just watch and make sure they weren't screwing the entire GOP conference by changing the rules, but so that we could steer that committee. And we have been on that committee. We've made sure there are over 500 amendments that have gotten a vote since this summer on the appropriations bills. And you can't tell me there's not regular order and he hasn't been trying to do 12 separate bills, because I'm on the committee that brings all that stuff to the floor. And just one final thought, the people who wanted to vacate Kevin, they're demanding two things that can't simultaneously be satisfied. They're demanding regular order and an open, transparent process, while at the same time they want a predetermined outcome. You can't guarantee both, and Kevin never did.
And what you mean by that, I want the public to understand, is you can pass 12 appropriations bills tomorrow, but they won't be what we want. That's the problem. You can pass whatever number, 12 appropriations bill, and have regular order, but you can't ensure, as Congressman Massie is saying, that they're going to do what you say they might do or they can do. This is part of my problem. I heard Gaetz up there, and among other things, he says, well, great, you guys passed the greatest border security bill in our history, but the border's still open. Now, last time I checked, the Senate has to be involved, the president has to be involved. The House of Representatives isn't the parliament. They don't control everything. Is that correct?
That is correct. And what Speaker McCarthy promised in January as condition of becoming Speaker was to try. He never said he would force, that he could make Joe Biden sign a law or that he could get Chuck Schumer to pass it. He said he would try. And I believe he has tried. And on the debt limit deal, which so many people are upset about, I was in all the negotiations in January, and Speaker McCarthy promised a lot of things, but I don't ever remember him promising anything in exchange for raising the debt limit. And Chip Roy may disagree, but I've told my colleagues who were in that room, I said, I wish we had thought to get him to promise us something in exchange for raising the debt limit, but we didn't think to do that. And so one of the reasons they wanted to vacate him is they're still relitigating that in June. Which has a provision in there that may save our bacon. I got in that debt limit deal a 1% automatic cut that triggers in January, kicks in April if we haven't gotten the 12 bills done. Now, they'll move heaven and earth up here in the swamp to try and undo it, but that's signed into law by Joe Biden, a 1% cut if we can't get out of our own way by January.
It's my understanding, Congressman, that the vast majority, I just looked at numbers, the vast majority of the Freedom Caucus, which is the most conservative caucus in the House, is it not?
Yes. Although
the vast majority voted against vacating the chair.
That is correct.
In fact, the overwhelming majority voted against, including Lauren Boebert, including Scott Perry, including Chip Roy, including Byron Donalds, including Dan Bishop, of all people, including Paul Gosar, Andy Harris, Mary Miller, Ralph Norman. These aren't wimps. These aren't RINOs and neocons, are they?
They are not. They're the most conservative members of Congress. And some, I mean, Speaker McCarthy even put conservatives on the Appropriations Committee. Like, they've got a chance not just to amend these on Rules Committee or on the floor, but some of those conservatives have had a chance right there in the committees that are drafting the appropriations bills, and all of them voted for Speaker McCarthy.
But the knife that was handed Gaetz, which he fought hardest for, frankly, because I remember this, was the ability of one single member of the House to move to vacate the chair. And that's what he did, and in my view, whether you agree or not, that's what he was always going to do. Because you know what he says today? He's asked, could he back Scalise? Oh, yes. Could he back Emmer? Emmer's a liberal. Can he back Emmer? Yes. He says, I can back anyone, but just not McCarthy. Does that not tell you that it's pretty damn personal?
The reality is I don't think there is anybody up here in our entire conference who could satisfy the demands that my friend Matt Gaetz has made on Speaker McCarthy. Again, like trying to say, I want this outcome, but I also want an open process.
Then why is he willing to support all these other guys who are not even as conservative as McCarthy, quite frankly?
Because maybe he would vacate him the day they got elected. I don't know.
I think grave damage has been done to the party. That is, the conservatives in the party. I don't care about the rest of the end of the country, and I'm going to tell you why. And I wrote a whole book on this. The Democrat Party hates America. Hakeem Jeffries wanted McCarthy out because I think he thought he was fairly effective under the circumstances. It took these 8 people, including Nancy Mace, who doesn't think McCarthy helped her on gun control and women's issues, whatever the hell she means by that. And I think grave damage was done because the Democrats feel like now they have the wind at their back, and the average person, Congressman, isn't really involved in all this Washington stuff, and they're looking at this. And they're saying, you Republicans don't know what the hell you're doing. And even on the shutdown argument, they never really came around to one position. They had like 15 things flying around. And even when Gaetz kept speaking, I'm saying, what are you focused on, man? What is it that can be done that's not being done? Isn't that the bottom line?
I think there was a lot of damage done to the Republican initiatives here because now Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell are in charge over in the Senate, where there really is kind of a uniparty. I also think, as you know, like I said before, my hands aren't clean. I co-authored the motion to vacate John Boehner. I'm not against using it, but the problem here is he played this card when there was nothing really to litigate yet. I mean, maybe in 6 months, if we ended up with some giant omnibus that blew the budget again, I could be compelled to be with him. But we didn't even give him a chance to get this done. And, my friend Matt Gaetz says, well, you own McCarthy if you don't vote to vacate him. I argued in conference today, I see it more as a lease, and the lease isn't up yet. I don't own anything, but you own what happens now, because I think we could end up with a coalition government where some moderate Republicans cut a deal with the Democrats and they get some committee gavels, like has happened in Texas and some other states. That's the nightmare scenario. I also think, and this is what I closed my speech with on the floor today, this is not just a referendum on Kevin McCarthy. This is a referendum on whether we should even try to do 12 bills, because Kevin tried to do 12 bills. He tried regular order, and now he's vacated. I'm worried that the next speaker will say, quaint notion. Yeah, forget that. We tried that once, and you saw what happened to Kevin, so we're not doing regular order anymore, and you're going to have to join a gang if you want to get anything. You either got to be in the local.
Who blocked those efforts to have 12 bills passed?
There's a lot of blame to go around. They were blocked this summer by, ironically, conservatives who were litigating the debt limit deal. They were upset about the debt limit deal. They were upset about the top line number was $100 billion off from what they said Kevin had agreed to. And so...
Wait a minute, $100 billion in a $5 trillion budget with a $2 trillion deficit?
Yes, and none of them were willing to fight like I was willing to fight on the $2 trillion CARES Act 3 years ago because they didn't want the president screaming at them, even though that was Pelosi's bill. But there was a fight this summer, and I think some of those people would rather they hadn't fought then, because if they're being honest, it's everybody's fault. We should have moved on, quit litigating what the number was, because we always knew it was a negotiation with the Senate, and get these 12 bills out. But we were stuck this summer trying to get something on the floor that could pass, and we were continually defeated by my closest friends.
Yeah, the wonderful eight is what you're talking about. I want to thank you, Congressman, for your intellectual honesty and your patriotism and your support of the Constitution and your efforts all along here. And we have to go, and I know you have to go, and good luck, and God bless you, sir. Well,
thank you, Mark, and thanks for getting the truth out, and thanks for backing me back when almost nobody did 3 years ago on the CARES Act.
You better believe it. Take care of yourself, my friend. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Have you been waiting to buy gold as an investment? Lots of commercials out there, but who can you really trust? I didn't want to make a bad investment, but didn't want to miss the boat either. Sound familiar? Fortunately, I've got great news. If you have an IRA or 401k and want to buy physical gold to diversify your investment, eliminate fear and uncertainty from the process, get the new Gold IRA Company Integrity Checklist. It helps you evaluate and choose the best gold IRA company. To get your free IRA Company Integrity Checklist today, text Levin to 68592. That's Levin to 68592. Now, I trust Augusta Precious Metals and invested myself. Use this checklist to choose the best gold IRA company for yourself and see if you agree. To get your free Gold IRA Company Integrity Checklist today, text Levin to 68592. Again, text Levin to 68592. Text date and message rates may apply. Performance varies. Consult your financial professionals before making investment decisions and get risk disclosures at AugustaPreciousMetals.com. These eight anarchists, including Nancy Mace, I guess they don't hate the Democrat Party as much as I do. Because they voted with Hakeem Jeffries, who ordered all his Democrats to vote to replace the Speaker. I guess they don't despise the 15% of the Democrats in the House who are Marxists. I guess they don't despise what they're doing to our country. You could never find me voting, building such an alliance. Every legal, legitimate, and appropriate tool and method must be employed in the short and long run to shatter the Democrat Party and its anti-American fundamental transformation agenda. It must be resoundingly conquered in the next election, or it'll be extremely difficult to undo the damage it is unleashing at breakneck speed. The Democrat Party stands for the relentless pursuit of power and control. America was founded on the principle of individual and human liberty, the dispersion of political and governmental power. The Roman Republic lasted 482 years. Our republic is only 247 years old. If the Democrat Party succeeds, the American experiment will fail. That is in the Democrat Party hates America. And when Gaetz says after all this he can vote for almost any Republican for Speaker, that, ladies and gentlemen, should be the ticket to everyone understanding that this wasn't about principle. This was about personalities. I'll be right back. Have you been waiting to buy gold as an investment? Lots of commercials out there, but who can you really trust? I didn't want to make a bad investment, but didn't want to miss the boat either. Sound familiar? Fortunately, I've got great news. If you have an IRA or 401k and want to buy physical gold to diversify your investment, eliminate fear and uncertainty from the process, get the new Gold IRA Company Integrity Checklist. It helps you evaluate and choose the best gold IRA company. To get your free IRA Company Integrity Checklist today, text Levin to 68592. That's Levin to 68592. Now, I trust Augusta Precious Metals and invested myself. Use this checklist to choose the best gold IRA company for yourself and see if you agree. To get your free Gold IRA Company Integrity Checklist today, text Levin to 68592. Again, text Levin to 68592. Text date and message rates may apply. Performance varies. Consult your financial professionals before making investment decisions and get risk disclosures at AugustaPreciousMetals.com.
Mark Levin, The thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
There's no civil war in the Republican Party. Against the establishment and conservatives there are. But that's different. These are 8 anarchists. They voted with the Democrats to ensure that they would get what they want played right into their hands. We now have more federal spending as a result of what they have done, what they did a couple of weeks ago, and what they're doing now. And they're lying to us. You just heard Thomas Massie, who's been involved in all the negotiations, whether it was all the deals that were cut to make sure conservatives had significant posts throughout the House committees and so forth. He was in on those discussions and negotiations. He was in on the debt ceiling negotiations. And so you either have to believe Thomas Massie or Matt Gaetz. Now, out of the 20 or so members who originally opposed McConnell back in January, only, listen to this, who voted for McConnell today? Scott Perry, Lauren Boebert, Chip Roy, Keith Safe, Andy Ogles, Ralph Norman, Mary Miller, Andy Harris, Paul Gosar, Andrew Clyde, Michael Cloud, Josh Beecham, Dan Bishop, and Byron Donalds. Are they all RINOs and neocons? These are the most conservative members of the House of Representatives. Who voted today with Hakeem Jeffries and the squad? Matt Gaetz, of course. Matt Gaetz now says he can accept anybody, pretty much anybody. This guy Elmer's a liberal, so I can vote for him. Are you out of your mind? Andy Biggs, Mr. Anti-Convention of States. He's Mr. Conservative. Are you kidding me? He was on the floor today, spoke the longest, was utterly incomprehensible. Matt Rosendale, who said he was involved in making sure that the Republicans didn't have a bigger victory. Does that sound like people who hate the Democrat Party because they hate us? And by the way, many people who lost their races in the midterms were conservatives, and the idiots celebrating it. We only have one way to take Congress. We have to win the elections with conservatives. He wants to be a senator now from Montana. Nancy Mace, you've not heard another host on radio or TV criticize this head case as much as I have. They put her on TV. Why? Because she hates Trump. That's why. She votes against McCarthy. He promised me he'd do something about guns and women's issues. Oh, okay. There's another one. Saving America. Ken Buck, all over MSNBC over the weekend, all over CNN, trashing conservatives while pretending to be one, refusing to vote against funding drag queens at the Pentagon. We're going to follow him off the cliff? Oh, come on. This is a disgrace. Those of you who've been with this program for 21 years, you know that you and I, we led the charge to get rid of Boehner. I did it with Mark Meadows, and we did it together. We led the charge to help push Paul Ryan out of office. You and me, not the other hosts, not any TV host. We did this. So when I tell you that this is different, we've been together long enough. It's not that I've changed. It's that I refuse to go along in Pickett's charge. I refuse to go along with the kamikazes who are funding the government at higher levels than the proposal that they voted against. And why is it that they're never questioned and their character and their purpose? Why is that? I'm not running for office. They're running for office. How can you say out of one side of your mouth, this guy McCarthy's no good, and then support his lieutenant, Scalise? How can you do that? Or support even more liberal members? I'll tell you what scares me is so many people can be played for suckers. And now we might lose everything. We might lose everything. The plan for a 30% cut overall, well, it was an 8% overall, 30% in certain departments because they were protecting defense, the veterans. Think we should do that? I do. And the most conservative border security bill ever. And the plan was that the real conservatives in the House, the Chip Roys, the Byron Donalds, and others, negotiated that deal with the so-called moderates and liberals in the Republican Party, so they had it together. Then they had discussed this and made a deal with Senate conservatives that they get a bill like this over to them, and then they would take it and use it to hammer McConnell. And Gaetz says, no, I need every bill has to be voted on in a regular order. Like that's going to fix anything. Are you telling me if they put a bill on the floor today to cut the government 25% across the board with certain exceptions, by the way, something that I would support, that you folks wouldn't support it? Well, they did. They cut it 30%. Now we have this 45-day continuing resolution. So they stop the conservatives in the House, the real conservatives in the House, and the real conservatives in the Senate from doing what they wanted to do, and then they complain that there's going to be more spending. They were told that this would lead to more spending. Then they complain that the border's open. Oh, they're the real conservatives, though, baby. Why? They know how to pull those heartstrings. We have a $33 trillion deficit. You heard Thomas Massie and me. I never heard squat from Matt Gaetz about that 3 years ago or 4 years ago when we were pounding the table right here. And I wrote a whole damn book about it. Be careful. Be careful with politicians, period. I've had it up to here with politicians. I've had it up to here with Washington. I'm sick and tired of the whole damn thing. And I'm sick and tired of phony conservatives who undermine real conservatives. We're not talking about Larry Hogan and Chris Christie and the other reprobates here. No. So we could very easily lose the House now because a lot of these Republicans, and many of them are conservative, who are in these swing districts, they may not make it. Matt Gaetz raised almost $7 million for his campaign. I looked into this today. You know how much he donated to other candidates? Nothing. Wow. He keeps denying he wants to run for governor. That's been his plan. Whether he does or not now, I have no idea. But that's the plan. Rosendale wants to run for the Senate a second time. He got his ass whipped before. So he needs to do what he's doing in his own mind. He stood up against the whole system. Can I ask you a question? If you want to stand up against the system, then why do you run for public office? For the Florida Assembly? And then you run for public office to be a member of Congress? Does anybody really believe that we can make major, major, major changes if you're in Congress. I look at these guys, and I say to myself, so many damn political hacks. And they pretend that they're leading an effort to cut spending when they're willing to massively increase spending, hand the Treasury over to Hakeem Jeffries and Schumer and Biden, and then blame it on everybody else. Do they really take border security seriously? I look at this list. And I think to myself, Andy Biggs in Arizona, you just killed the most conservative border bill in American history, certainly in modern American history. And you go to the floor of the House today and you say, yes, we have to admit they did pass this great bill and so forth, and then just move on? Well, that was part of the package? And he just moved on. Did you see that, Mr. Producer? Then he goes on. We were promised 12 appropriation bills. And I see this and I hear this. You just heard Thomas Massie. They tried to pass 12 bills. And they couldn't. And Massie's point is, we could have passed 12 bills if we buckled under to the spending demands of the more liberal members and, of course, the Democrats in these committees. It's so tight, you got a one-vote majority, maybe two, on the committees. So we could have had our 12 bills, but he said you can't guarantee the outcome. And what he meant by that was we'd have 12 massive spending bills. And then, of course, he'd be accused of, look at the massive spending that he has supported. You also just heard from Thomas Massie that under the debt deal in May, 98% of the budget was to be funded if they couldn't get these various appropriation bills done. What did the last proposal negotiated by members of the Freedom Caucus and Republicans in the Senate behind the scenes, what did that propose? 92%. I don't want to hear another damn thing about any one of these 8. I am no special pleader for Kevin McCarthy or Steve Scalise or anybody else. I'm certainly not a special pleader for the RNC, the Republican establishment, when I've spent over 2 decades behind this microphone fighting every damn one of them. But I will be damned if anarchists who work with Marxists and then beat their Trump about being conservative, I will be damned if I'm going to go along with that crap. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Have you been waiting to buy gold as an investment? Lots of commercials out there, but who can you really trust? I didn't want to make a bad investment, but didn't want to miss the boat either. Sound familiar? Fortunately, I've got great news. If you have an IRA or 401k and want to buy physical gold to diversify your investment, eliminate fear and uncertainty from the process, get the new Gold IRA Company Integrity Checklist. It helps you evaluate and choose the best gold IRA company. To get your free IRA Company Integrity Checklist today, text Levin to 68592. That's Levin to 68592. Now, I trust Augusta Precious Metals and invested myself. Use this checklist to choose the best gold IRA company for yourself and see if you agree. To get your free Gold IRA Company Integrity Checklist today, text Levin to 68592. Again, text Levin to 68592. Text date and message rates may apply. Performance varies. Consult your financial professionals before making investment decisions and get risk disclosures at AugustaPreciousMetals.com. Donald Trump on True Social. Why is it that Republicans are always fighting among themselves? Why aren't they fighting the radical left Democrats who are destroying our country? I guess he's a neocon RINO too. This is a man who's literally putting his freedom on the line. They wish to put him in prison the rest of his life. They want him to die in prison. They pray every day he gets hit by a bus. They're throwing every conceivable Marxist tactic against this man state, local, federal, civil, criminal. And he's trying to say, ladies and gentlemen, this party, this Democrat Party, he's called it, is a Marxist operation that is destroying our homes, our families, our schools, our border, our economy. They're destroying our food chain, the prices of food and gasoline, all of it. And these eight are heroes? Are you kidding me? They just handed the keys to the Treasury to the Democrat Party. They just smoked the most conservative bill on the security of the border, certainly in modern history. They completely undermined the conservatives in the Senate who needed this, who wanted this, to pressure Mitch McConnell. And now where are they? Gaetz has asked 1,000 questions, but he's not asked one about where do you go from here. He's never given us the plan. He's never given us a document. He rails against their $33 trillion debt, which he voted for. Andy Biggs says it's now or never. The man who led the effort to block the Arizona Senate from voting on Convention of States. He's our king. Let's follow him. Nancy Mace, all over TV. She's angry that Andy McCarthy, Kevin McCarthy, didn't give her some gun control or women's rights bill or some damn thing. Why do you assume these people have integrity? When Ken Buck is over on MSNBC trashing Trump, he's on CNN trying to get a job. What is wrong with people? You folks should be getting on the phone without any pressure from me and civilly being given these bastards a what for? And those of you who live in purple districts or even blue districts and you have a Republican congressman, you probably can kiss that congressman a goodbye now. Every one of these Republicans live in safe Republican districts. Good. Gaetz, I can't remember them all. Biggs, so forth. We don't have enough Republican districts to win a majority. Reagan won a ton of Democrats. We got to go into these communities and defeat the Democrats. We have to defeat the Democrat Party. We need to expose what the Democrat Party is. And now, all day long, tomorrow, probably over the weekend, God knows what does Matt Gaetz think? Oh, okay. What does Matt Rosendale think? Who? Oh, okay. Who can you support for speaker? You have a very, very, very high standard there, Matt. Anybody. Anybody. His number 2, his number 3, his number 4. Yeah, I can support them. Anybody. Matt Gaetz is facing an ethics investigation by the House Ethics Committee. It wasn't put there by McCarthy. It was sitting there before McCarthy became Speaker. And there is information from Gaetz to some of his friends that's available apparently to the media. Some have reported on it, where his fury at McCarthy has nothing to do with everything he says and everything to do with the fact that he's demanded that McCarthy force that ethics committee to drop the investigation, which nobody can do that. Nobody can do. I can't get any of these a-holes on this show, by the way. And you know what? Why waste the airtime anyway? The rest of the media is giving him attention. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Well, I want to congratulate Hakeem Jeffries. I want to congratulate the Marxists and the Democrat Party. I want to congratulate the media. I want to congratulate all of them because Kevin McCarthy is now telling the Republicans in the Republican conference he will not run again for Speaker. And why the hell would he? I mean, why would he? But you watch how quickly they get behind one of his lieutenants, and that'll tell you everything you need to know. Everything. Everything. And we had Thomas Massie on here who told us a lot that you didn't know. I can tell you some of my friends in the Freedom Caucus are so disgusted they're beside themselves. I don't really care what all the other hosts have to say. I don't listen to them. Doesn't matter to me. A lot of them are very afraid to tell you the truth. A lot of them think you're kind of stupid. And that you'll play along. And they'll play along with you. That this is a grand day, that now the needle's going to move. When the opposite has happened. It's going to go counterclockwise. They've set the cause back. If I thought they could actually set it forward, I'd be with them. Nothing was learned here. But you see, I remember what Rush told me when I was a young guy. My great mentor, he said to me, never. He didn't say follow your audience. He said never take your audience for granted. And what he meant by that is don't lie to them. Don't tell them what they want to hear. Tell them what you think. Tell them what you believe. And I'm sure if he were sitting next to me now, or I'm next to him, I would sit with him from time to time at his studio. First in his house at Palm Beach until they chased him out of there, and then the townhouse from where he broadcast. He'd be disgusted by this too. You can tell who the quislings are in this business, whether it's TV or radio. Because they'll go on social media and they'll look at all the comments. They'll be moved by the comments. It'll affect them deeply. But the commenters are not your audience. Maybe some are in your audience. But they're not your audience when you have an audience the size that I have as an example. And the lefties come on and they pretend they're conservatives. Then you have the bots who come on. And then, of course, you have the anarchists who come on. Mr. Producer has looked at some of these comments, and what are they saying? Burn the whole city down? Isn't that a couple of them say? Burn it down. Burn it down? Now you sound like Antifa and Black Lives Matter. I really felt we had the Democrats on the run, and I pray to God we still do. I really felt we did. Biden's such a disaster in every respect. Even Democrat cities couldn't ignore what was going on the border anymore. I felt the Democrat Party had exposed itself. That there were very good bills that passed the House. We can't control what the Republicans... You know, I had Senator Ron Johnson on Sunday on Life, Liberty, and Levin, who I admire greatly. And I'm asking him about the budget, and all he could really talk about was Kevin McCarthy and the Uniparty. I said, well, what about your side? You forced the hand of the House Republicans even before they were sworn in. Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi, and Schumer got together, and they passed a budget that was so enormous that the Republicans were trying to dig their way out from day one. McCarthy didn't do that. And by the way, I didn't even heard a single word. Did you, Mr. Perdue, about Gaetz attacking the Republicans in the Senate? Nothing. Not a word. And they're the ones that are really blocking any progress, quite frankly. I see that McCarthy will speak at 7:30 p.m., Mr. Producer. We'll take that live. I want all affiliates down the line. Everybody down the line. If you're on the line, we will take it live. See what he has to say. But I can hear them now, these 8 who voted with the radical Democrats who hate our country. That's just the other thing I can't stomach. Why the hell would you vote with Hakeem Jeffries and every one of these people? Why? How could you possibly do that? And the more I look at this Gaetz, he reminded me of somebody, Mr. Producer. I kept looking at him, he reminded me of something. And I hate to do this to an individual who's passed, but he looks a lot to me like Richard Nixon. With the comb back hair, little dabble do ya, the eyes and the look. He's no Donald Trump. He's no Ronald Reagan. Most people don't know anything about the guy. But can he give a great speech? We call that a demagogue. And the Democrat Party is filled with them, making empty promises. Eight of them. And the media is playing this out as some big civil war. Civil war? There were 8 of them. And the far right. Is Nancy Mace part of the far right? She's 15% of the 8. Andy Biggs, Mr. Conservative, who blocked convention of states for years, till he moved to Washington, and then the new Republican president of the Senate immediately pushed it through, and Arizona is one of the states now that has passed a resolution to support convention of states. But Biggs is the one who blocked it. I'm watching my friend Jason Chaffetz on Fox keep saying, Biggs is very common sense, very balanced. Maybe he'll bring some votes with him. I don't know what my friend Chaffetz is drinking, but he knows something that I don't know and the rest of us don't know. And there's Ken Buck. These are real reprobates. It's unbelievable to me. And then we keep it first time in history. Can you imagine that? First time in history. And it's in this instance? In this instance? It's the first time in history? Now, the vast majority of you listening to this program are not represented by these 8 members of Congress: Nancy Mace, Andy Biggs, Ken Buck, who wants to get another job, Gaetz, Rosendale, Crane, Good of Virginia. You're not. These are 8 Congress members. That's all. 8. And McCarthy wasn't perfect, that's for sure. And one of the things he did was he handed the saboteurs the knife that they were able to use to allow one member to call to vacate the House. So you're living under a constant blackmail threat. Either you kill that House committee investigation, or I'm going to kill you politically. And you know, the thing about McCarthy, whether you agree with him or don't, or like him or don't, or whatever it is, he knew what his likely fate would be. Once that 30% cut and border security deal that the conservatives had made with the conservatives in the Senate was defeated by these people. He knew, had to know, not just the possibility, but the probability that it might be over for him. Let's say he's a moderate. Let's say he's a RINO. Let's say he was carrying the water for us on that issue. I know this because that's what I was told. Not by him. I haven't talked to him. He was carrying the water for you and me, conservatives. And these 8 killed it. And now they killed it with Hakeem Jeffries. You're going to hear a lot of blather, people beating their chest about the state of the country. Let me ask you something. When you watch these people or listen to them on radio, ask yourselves a question. What do they really know? What have they really done? How much knowledge do they really have? I think you'll have an answer. I think you have, Mark, what did you do? One thing I regret is I never served in the military. Can't fix that. Oh, that's for sure. Even though family members did, but I did not. But I did fight for Ronald Reagan's nomination in 76 against Ford and the establishment. I did fight for it in 80 against the Bushes and the establishment. We finally got it. And when I was asked to serve in his administration for 8 years at various levels of the government, we did. Deputy Solicitor of the Interior. We undid almost everything that Jimmy Carter had done. And these were brutal battles with the bureaucracy in the courts. Chief of Staff to the Attorney General of the United States. All this crime you see today would never have happened under my Attorney General. Period. I don't take credit for it, but he changed the courts in the right direction until Biden came in and Obama before him. Gave us Scalia, among others. You know, when I was a kid, I was 19 years old. I ran for the school board. I was still in law school. And this experience was very profound in my life. I didn't know if the Republican Party would nominate me or not. I formed my own political action committee at the age of 19. There weren't a lot of rules back then about forming them either. I didn't need a lawyer to do it. I had to fill out a one-page form called the Committee for Tax Limitation. Can you imagine that, Mr. Producer, at the end of the 1970s? That's where my head was. And we fought like hell. Me and another gentleman, Bob Selleck. I turned 20 when I was elected. He was 27. He became the chairman or the president of the board because they had a compromise with us. Two of the people we ran with, once they got in office, they did a complete about-face. They threw in with the Democrats and the bureaucrats. They threw in with the school unions and all the rest of it. We were the last of it. And we fought them like hell. And this Committee for Tax Limitation became a group of activists, conservatives, mostly elderly, who were upset about their taxes. And so I had a little flirtation with running for office, and I decided that's not really where I can do much. And so when I listen to people get behind microphones in front of TV cameras who've done very little in their lives, but even more than that, they're playing with your minds. I can't stomach that either. You know where I stand. You know why I stand there. I wear everything right on my sleeve. I write books about it. I'm the most transparent person in media, period. And I'm telling you tonight, whatever the outcome, that this is a significant setback. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Now, you know what company's looking out for you when they actually upgrade your service and don't charge you for it? This is great news, and for new and current Pure Talk customers. Pure Talk just added data to every plan and is including a mobile hotspot with each one, with no price increase whatsoever. Now, if you've considered Pure Talk before but haven't pulled the trigger, take a look again. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk text and now 50% more 5G data plus mobile hotspot. Just $20 a month, folks. This is why I love Pure Talk, that also happens to be veteran-owned and only hires the best customer service team right here in America. Most families are saving almost $1,000 a year while enjoying the most dependable 5G network in America. Dial pound 250 and say Mark Levin to make the switch to Pure Talk, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, dial pound 250, say Mark Levin, and make the switch to my cell phone company, Pure Talk, today. I have a thought about the speaker stuff since McCarthy said he's not going to run. And even though the 8 saboteurs will take credit for this, just thinking out loud, I think there's very few members who can help these 8 save face, who was a big backer of McCarthy, who gave a speech on his behalf on the floor of the House today. But these 8 will say, see, we told you we can do better. I'm just telling you now, I know. And that's Jim Jordan, perhaps. And I say all this reluctantly because I have such a bitter taste in my mouth about what's happened now. But I think these 8, if not all of them, most of them, would want to take credit for that. I think these 8 would want to claim they're a constant moving target, these 8. Gaetz was attacking Jim Jordan, if not directly, certainly indirectly, on his handling of... They haven't even subpoenaed, Hunter Biden yet, as if that's a big deal. The goal is to get Joe. But anyway, that aside. So I think that's a possibility as somebody who could get elected speaker. And these 8, again, I guarantee you, because they're egomaniacs, will take credit of this stuff. I don't really care what they take credit of. They've exposed themselves. We know who they are. Gaetz and the other anarchists will back virtually anybody who's put up now. And they would certainly like to hide behind Jim Jordan. But my view is, well, these are the cards that have been dealt us. So we got to make the best out of it that's possible. I'll be right back. Now, you know what company's looking out for you when they actually upgrade your service and don't charge you for it? This is great news, and for new and current Pure Talk customers. Pure Talk just added data to every plan and is including a mobile hotspot with each one, with no price increase whatsoever. Now, if you've considered Pure Talk before but haven't pulled the trigger, take a look again. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk text and now 50% more 5G data plus mobile hotspot. Just $20 a month, folks. This is why I love Pure Talk, that also happens to be veteran-owned and only hires the best customer service team right here in America. Most families are saving almost $1,000 a year while enjoying the most dependable 5G network in America. Dial pound 250 and say Mark Levin to make the switch to Pure Talk, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, dial pound 250, say Mark Levin, and make the switch to my cell phone company, Pure Talk, today. Let's go to Kevin McCarthy.
That I've been so fortunate to be an American. My journey to this office was something people wouldn't understand. I grew up in a town of Bakersfield, California, the son of a firefighter, the grandson of immigrants. Parents worked hard, the youngest in my family. Didn't have great wealth. When got out of high school, I didn't have great grades. Couldn't get a scholarship. Went to community college. flipped cars to try to pay my way through it, went to visit some buddies away in college for a weekend, stopped at the grocery store to cash a check, and I won the lottery. One of the first in California. It was before Biden economics. It was only 5,000, but it went much further back then. Took my folks to dinner, put the majority of the rest of the money into the stock market, and did pretty well. The next semester, I took a break from school. I went to buy a franchise, but no one said they would sell me one. I was only 20 years old. But I learned then never to give up. So I opened my own business, selling sandwiches. 3 things I learned. First to work, last to leave, last to be paid. I wanted to finish my college degree. At that time, no one in my family had finished a 4-year degree. I did pretty well. I now had enough money that I could pay my way through school as long as I went to Cal State. So I sold my business, going to school. I opened up the local paper and said, be a summer intern in Washington, D.C. with my local congressman. I did not know this man, but I thought he'd be lucky to have me, so I applied. And you know what he did? He turned me down. But you want to know the end of the story? I got elected to a seat I couldn't get an internship for. I ended up being the 55th Speaker of the House. One of the greatest honors. I loved every minute. And the one thing I will tell you is, doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it is necessary. I don't regret standing up for choosing governance over grievance. It is my responsibility. It is my job. I do not regret negotiating. Our government is designed to find compromise. I don't regret my efforts to build coalitions and find solutions. I was raised to solve problems, not create them. So I may have lost a vote today, but as I walk out of this chamber, I feel fortunate to have served the American people. I leave the speakership with a sense of pride, accomplishment, and yes, optimism. From the day I entered politics, my mission has always been to make tomorrow better than today. I fought for what I believe in, and I believe in this country of America. My goals have not changed. My ability to fight is just in a different form. You need 218. Unfortunately, 4% of our conference can join all the Democrats and dictate who can be the Republican Speaker in this House. I don't think that rule is good for the institution, but apparently I'm the only one. I believe I can continue to fight, maybe in a different manner. I will not run for Speaker again. I'll have the conference pick somebody else. I hope you realize that every day I did the job, regardless whether you underestimated me or not, I wanted to do it with a smile. I grew to enjoy you, even on your toughest days and your questions. I could always tell what day it was based upon your question. Monday, you would ask if I could pass the bill. Tuesday was whether the rule would pass. Wednesday was the greatest challenge ever to my speakership. And Thursday, when we passed the bill, you didn't think it was a very big deal. And it all started again on Friday. You know, I wouldn't change a thing. I do believe, I got a new portrait in there too of Teddy Roosevelt. You all know the man in the arena. One of my favorite parts of it, who errs, who comes up short again and again, but there is no effort without error and shortcoming. Who spends himself in a worthy cause, who knows the triumph of high achievement, and if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly. I always like to take a risk. Saturday, I took a risk for the American public. Regardless what anybody says, no one knew whether that would pass. The Democrats didn't want that bill. Yes, they pull a fire alarm. Yes, they do their conga line. Yes, they wanted to delay. But it was all for the American people. I could not look the troops in the eye and say I would not pay them. For those who spoke on the floor, I thank them for their positive talks. I don't know what those who voted against and said there was some deal, they were never a part of any deal. For those who said about what we accomplished, I'm proud of what we accomplished. From the Parents' Bill of Rights to our energy bill. But if they want to hold me liable because the Senate didn't take it up or the president didn't take it up, that's politics, for what I know. But the one thing I do know, this country is too great for small visions of those 8. To any child that are listening and who are coming to visit the Capitol, this is a place I want you to visit. I liked opening the Capitol back up again. I liked taking away the metal detectors. I liked committees being able to work. I liked people being able to visit. I hope you liked being able to be back in. I think it was important that members actually show up to work as well. You know, to paraphrase Lou Gehrig, he said, I might have been given a bad break, but I truly still consider myself to be the luckiest man on the face of the earth. There's no other country that you could rise to be the 55th Speaker, not get an internship, and be able to fight for the American public. So it was my greatest honor to be able to do it. I loved my conference well. I loved to be able to ability. I've been a part of the leadership team for quite some time. We won 2 majorities. As leader, I'm proud of the fact we only gained races. Only gained seats. I'm proud of the fact, as a Republican leader, we elected more women. We elected more minorities. We expanded the base. I'm proud of the fact that for the 5 years I was leader, 2 election cycles, we gained 5 more seats in California, 5 more in New York. We won in places no one thought we could win. The same thing, you would underestimate me. You always said we'd lose each time around. We kept gaining. I intend to make sure that we gain and keep the majority in the next cycle as well. With that, I look forward to your positive questions. Yes. Oh, I'll look at that.
You still obviously command a lot of loyalty within the conference. We've heard you say approximately 10,000 times that you never give up. So I'm wondering, why not? Why did you make the decision not to put your name forward again and try to grind it out like you did when you won the job in the first place?
You know, you need 218 for the rule, 218 to move forward. And I'll never give up on the American people. That doesn't mean I have to be Speaker to do what I have to do for the American people. There's a lot of things I could do for the American people. But you know what's interesting? Everybody's sitting there. In today's world, if you're sitting in Congress and you took a gamble to make sure government was still open, and 8 people can throw you out as Speaker, and the Democrats who said they wanted to keep government open, I think you've got a real divide. I think you've got a real institutional problem. Interesting, it was in this room after we had won the majority, I hadn't become Speaker last, and Nancy Pelosi came to me. She was Speaker at the time on the way out. And I told her I was having issues with getting enough votes. And she said, what's the problem? I said, they want this one person can rule you out. She was the only Speaker to have changed that rule. I had the power to call the vote on her, but I never would. I lost some votes because of it. And she said, just give it to him. I'll always back you up. I made the same offer to Boehner and same thing to Paul, because I believe in the institution. I think today was a political decision by the Democrats. And I think the things they have done in the past hurt the institution. When they just started removing people from committee. And they just started doing the other things. And my fear is the institution fell today. Because you can't do the job if 8 people, you have 94% or 96% of your entire conference, but 8 people can partner with the whole other side. How do you govern? And for them to make a motion on me because I made a decision for the country that they agreed with, but they choose to do the other, that becomes a problem. Yes, sir.
So, one, are you planning on endorsing a successor to you? And then
I might. I might.
You might.
Yeah.
Who would that be?
I don't know who's running it.
Okay.
I'll talk to people.
And when you look back, is there anything you could have done differently with those 8 members?
Yeah, a lot of them I helped get elected, so I probably should have picked somebody else.
What if the 200 don't give up on you? I see Jim Banks here. There's others that really, really support you.
You know, we
nominated again. If you keep getting nominated, will you stay
You know, I love these 200. They've gone through so much. They're down in the conference. They want me to. They'll say they're going to keep voting for me. I think you should put the country first. You know, this job was never about me. I hope you felt that I always felt, what can we do best to move forward? I mean, I treated Hakeem the way I wanted to be treated. I'd tell him things we were doing throughout, so he never was questioned. I wanted to bring the body back differently. We created a select committee on China. I changed the Intel committee. They just came back from MIT where they all had bipartisan briefing on AI and quantum. Started doing briefings with AI, the whole conference, of Republicans and Democrats alike. We're far from solving that problem, but I'm proud of what we were able to do there. So we'll continue. Yes, sir.
When did you make this decision? Did you know the motion eventually succeeded that you would not run again, or was this right afterwards?
You know, not all those 8, but these are the same people that never voted for me. They thought it was big. They went to present after we went through 15 rounds. Why do I do something for myself that can hurt the country? Why create? I'm not quite sure those individuals are looking to be productive. It concerns me as a Republican based upon watching what they do. I want to be a Republican and a conservative that governs. And we're going to have to find our way to do that. The challenge is we had so many opportunities. These are the same people that sat on the floor and criticized me that we didn't get all 12 spending bills done, but we first had to do a debt ceiling that they didn't support. They held up every appropriation bill in the summer because they wouldn't let it come through. After the debt ceiling, they stopped us from doing anything on the floor. When we had a continuing resolution that would do something on the border, I listened to one talk about how it made him think about the border, and when he voted against it. And then they wanted to challenge me because I worked with the other side so America could go forward and government could stay open. You know, if you have to lose for something, I will always lose for the country. It is a much better battle to have.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes, sir.
Mr. McCarthy.
Doing this job, what advice do you have for the next speaker? What would you like to see the next speaker?
Change the rules.
Do you regret allowing that rule to begin in place?
Do you think I let it? I mean, for the whole point, I mean, if you talk about like a Gaetz, the Gaetz came to the whole conference and said, we will never use this. We'll never use this, you know. I mean, this is a man that sat there on the 14th vote and said, okay, I'm going to vote for you next time, and falls back and not. So, I mean, it's just the trustworthiness of a lot of individuals. It makes it difficult. But I do not think, regardless of who the speaker is, that you should have that rule. You know, everybody had it but Pelosi, but it was never used until it started getting used against Boehner. And if the entire other, if you can always count on the other party to vote in a block against it, then you're allowing 4 to 5 people to control whatever. So
you're listening to Kevin McCarthy. I'm going as long as I can till our hard break, Mr. Producer.
It's not a government that works. That is chaotic.
Mr. McCarthy.
Yeah.
Is there a Republican Party on
Okay, wait, go right ahead.
I hear you talking about the challenge of governing, the challenge to Republicans. I wonder what you think this means, what this says about the Republican Party.
I don't think it says about the Republican Party. I think it says something about some people who are not a conservative. I mean, if you were a conservative and you only had one entity making the battle and you vote against securing the border, you vote against cutting this wasteful spending, and then you partner with all the Democrats. Now, you'll phrase it all the other different ways. That's not a conservative. Look, you all know Matt Gaetz. You know it was personal. It had nothing to do about spending. It had nothing to do about everything he accused somebody of he was doing. It all was about getting attention from you. I mean, we're getting email fundraisers from him as he's doing it. Join in quickly. That's not governing. That's not becoming of a member of Congress. And regardless of what you think, I've seen the text. It was all about his ethics, but that's all right.
Mr. Murphy, can I just clarify really quickly from the first question? Are you considering resigning?
No, I said, he asked about that. I haven't thought about that. I said, yeah.
And then just on where you're placing the blame, you said the institution is...
Look. No. I'm not going to blame anybody. There's not blame anywhere. Look, I give it as good as I get it, right? So you know the challenge. I knew going in. You would take a poll all the time. Is he going to get thrown out this week? But you know what? If I lose my job over doing what I truly believe what's right, I'm very at peace with it. You asked earlier, like, when did I decide? I knew they would make the motion on me. It didn't make one bit of difference. I felt very comfortable in that decision. And I think the American public believed that decision was right.
Matt Gaetz should be expelled from the Republican conference?
That's the conference's decision.
Now, you mentioned that you were...
All right, folks, we're going to have to take a break. If it's still going on after the break, we'll be right back to it, and I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Now, you know a company's looking out for you when they actually upgrade your service and don't charge you for it? This is great news, and for new and current Pure Talk customers. Pure Talk just added data to every plan and is including a mobile hotspot with each one, with no price increase whatsoever. Now, if you've considered Pure Talk before but haven't pulled the trigger, take a look again. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, and now 50% more 5G data, plus mobile hotspot. Just $20 a month, folks. This is why I love Pure Talk, that also happens to be veteran-owned and only hires the best customer service team right here in America. Most families are saving almost $1,000 a year while enjoying the most dependable 5G network in America. Dial pound 250 and say Mark Levin to make the switch to Pure Talk, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, dial pound 250, say Mark Levin, and make the switch to my cell phone company, Pure Talk, today. You know, the Democrats used to call Richard Nixon, and I was a kid, and I hated it, Tricky Dick for Dick Nixon, Mr. Producer. Did you know that? Didn't I say Gaetz looks a little like Nixon to me? Well, you get the point. So I'm just telling you, I know how connivers operate. So whoever the next speaker is, they're going to take credit for the next speaker. See this? See, this guy's really good. See that? We got you that guy. The damage that has been done is severe. The Democrat Party hates America, and they have a big win tonight. We have all these existential threats facing us, and they relitigated the speaker case. So congratulations to Matt Gaetz. He got what he wanted to get, and the country lost. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Welcome, America. I'm telling you, most hosts, whether on TV and radio, do not have the guts to tell you the truth about what's happened. I looked at the list of House Freedom Caucus members, the most conservative members in the House of Representatives. They had to create their own caucus. And I want to go down this list with you. There's only about 52 of them. And how they voted. Barry Moore, Alabama, 2nd District. Voted to keep McCarthy. Gary Palmer, Alabama, 6th District. Voted to keep McCarthy. David Schweikert, the real conservative out of Arizona, Arizona 1. He voted to keep McCarthy. Eli Crane, Arizona 2, voted against him. Andy Biggs, Mr. Anti-Convention of States, voted against McCarthy. Debbie Lesko, Arizona 8, voted for McCarthy. Paul Gosar, Arizona 9, voted for McCarthy. Darrell Issa, California 48, they're Freedom Caucus members, voted for McCarthy. Lauren Boebert, Colorado 3rd, voted for McCarthy. Ken Buck, who we now know is best buddies with Liz Cheney, for God's sakes, who hates Kevin McCarthy. Well, he did as he was directed, apparently. He voted against McCarthy. Matt Gaetz, you know well. Kat Kamek, Florida's 3rd, voted for McCarthy. Bill Posey, Florida 8, voted for McCarthy. Anna Luna, I think she just had a baby. She wasn't there. Greg Stubbe, Florida 17th, voted for McCarthy. And most of these, by the way, are Trump supporters. Byron Donalds, Florida 19, voted for McCarthy. Andrew Clyde, Georgia 9, voted for McCarthy. These are Freedom Caucus members. Mike Collins, Georgia 10, voted for McCarthy. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Georgia 14, voted for McCarthy. Russ Fulcher, Idaho 1, voted for McCarthy. Mary Miller, Illinois 15, very delightful lady. My wife and I met her and her husband. Voted for McCarthy. Clay Higgins, Louisiana 3rd, voted for McCarthy. Mike Johnson, Louisiana 4, voted for McCarthy. Andy Harris, Maryland 1, voted for McCarthy. Eric Burleson, Missouri 7, voted for McCarthy. Matt Rosendale, Montana 2nd, has voted against McCarthy and everything else every step of the way. Greg Murphy, North Carolina 3rd, voted for McCarthy. Dan Bishop, he and I had a little Twitter back and forth, voted for McCarthy. Jim Jordan spoke on his behalf and voted for McCarthy, Ohio 4. Max Miller used to work for Trump, Ohio 7, voted for McCarthy. Warren Davidson, Ohio 8, voted for McCarthy. What else do we have here? Hold on one second, folks. Getting my list straight. All right. Here we go. Josh Breachin, Oklahoma 2nd, voted for McCarthy. Scott Perry, good man out of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania 10th, voted for McCarthy. Jeff Duncan, South Carolina 3rd, voted for McCarthy. Ralph Norman, South Carolina 5th, voted for McCarthy. Diana Harshbarger, Tennessee 1st, voted for McCarthy. Scott Disgelis, Tennessee 4th, voted for McCarthy. Andy Ogles, Tennessee 5th, voted for McCarthy. Keith Self, Texas 3rd, voted for McCarthy. Ronnie Jackson of Texas, President Trump's former doctor, Texas 13, voted for McCarthy. Randy Weber, Texas 14, voted for McCarthy. Chip Roy, Texas 21, voted for McCarthy. Troy Nels, Texas 22nd, voted for McCarthy. Michael Cloud, Texas 27, voted for McCarthy. Burgess Owens, Utah 4th, voted for McCarthy. Bob Good, Virginia 5th, voted against McCarthy. Ben Klein, Virginia 6th, voted for McCarthy. Morgan Griffith, Virginia 9th, voted for McCarthy. Alex Mooney, West Virginia 2nd, great guy, by the way, voted for McCarthy. Tom Tiffany, Wisconsin 7, voted for McCarthy. Harriet Hageman, who replaced Liz Cheney, Wyoming, at large, voted for McCarthy. She replaced Liz Cheney, who urged Mr. Buck, one of the 8, to vote against McCarthy. I just went through the list of the Freedom Caucus. I guess they're all neocons, RINOs, sellouts, big government leftists too. No, these people are conservatives who understand everything that's at stake now. The existential threats all around us. Where do you think Hakeem Jeffries is today? Think he's having a party? Now, the one question Matt Gaetz has not been asked is, when is the last time he spoke to Hakeem Jeffries or any of his surrogates or any of the others in the Democrat Party Because it's interesting, Hakeem Jeffries puts out a note this morning and tells all the Democrats to vote against McCarthy when he said it was a Republican civil war and stay out of it. I wasn't born yesterday. I didn't fall off the turnip truck, and neither did you. You're intelligent people. You're wise people. You know what the hell's going on, too. They made a deal with the devil in the Democrat Party. They made a deal with a party who has been and is destroying this country because they're trying to settle a score. Some of them are wanting to run for a higher office, and they think this is what's going to propel them. So whoever the next speaker is, might be a great person, maybe a personal friend, I don't know. Of course, they will take credit for it. They get credit for nothing. And I want to tell the media, even friendly media, there's no civil war going on here. These are 8 anarchists. Nancy Mace voted because McCarthy wasn't left-wing enough. This guy, Buck, is a creepy disgrace. Between Liz Cheney and his negotiating with CNN, he should resign from Congress now and go get your damn job with CNN. Matt Gaetz, in my view, is a sleazy operator and a demagogue. Matt Rosendale, to me, is a relatively low IQ opportunist who wants to run for the Senate again, and he was beaten the first time. I don't know much about the others, and I don't need to. They handed the power to the Democrats to take out somebody who was elected speaker by the vast majority of the Freedom Caucus, the Republican Study Committee. These are conservatives. And the hypocrisy and the contradictions that come out of that mouth of Matt Gaetz is really unbelievable. Just because he talks like an auctioneer selling a used car doesn't mean he's substantively correct. Now, what am I talking about? He goes on and on and on about how Kevin McCarthy's working with the Democrats. Really? They just voted unanimously to get rid of him. And they voted unanimously with you, Mr. Gaetz. Why was that? Why did they vote unanimously to get rid of McCarthy, and you voted with them, and yet you voted with them, a unanimous Democrat Party? Pretty incredible when you think about it. Also pretty disgusting. All kinds of things going on behind the scenes that you and I will never know. That the vast majority of the conservatives in the House Republican caucus won't know. If I ever vote with Hakeem Jeffries or Tlaib or Omar or AOC or Bowman, then you'll know somebody's holding a gun to my head. Oh, Mark, you know, we had to work with the Russians to defeat Hitler. Correct. And McCarthy's not Hitler. These 8 opposed the most aggressive effort to cut domestic discretionary spending, perhaps in history. Perhaps in history. And they all admitted, even Andy Biggs, Mr. Anti-Convention of States, that H.R. 2 that was part of this to secure the border was and is the most conservative effort to do it. And, of course, Gaetz, who does nothing, complained that it's just a Band-Aid, it's no big deal. And then he gets on the floor and he says, Kevin McCarthy, they passed that bill, but the border's still open. I guess he doesn't understand how a constitution works, like it or not. Kevin McCarthy cannot close the border on his own, Matt Gaetz, and you know it. And the Republicans in the House not in November, not in January, not in May, not today, didn't create a $33 trillion debt. And it's shocking to me that at no time during your speech did you mention Mitch McConnell or John Cornyn or John Thune or John Barrasso, all the Johns there. Not once. And at no time did you mention that the most conservative members of the Senate wanted that bill passed so they could use it against those people in their party in the Senate. And you stopped it. And you prevented it. And you partnered with Marxists in the House of Representatives who hate our guts, who hate our country. And now you'll take credit for anything that happens. Oh, we have a new speaker. See, I told you, they'll all be great. A man who's going on and on about the debt, on and on about the debt. Well, 3 years ago, he didn't say a damn thing about the debt. Slippery. Very slippery. Mark, you sound so angry. I am pissed off. What's happening to our country? Saboteurs within the conservative movement. I'm not even saying within the Republican Party, within the conservative movement. People who want you to get behind them as they lead Pickett's charge into oblivion. So we lose the culture war, so we lose the political war, so we lose our country. Now's not the time for these damn games. Not now. Now this won't be the end of the world unless, of course, there's a domino effect. That is, unless it costs us public support, unless it costs us the House, the Senate, or the presidency, unless it costs us on this massive debt, open borders. Whomever the next speaker is, and how the hell do I know who it'll be? Maybe it'll be the closest thing to God Almighty himself. Maybe all these promises will come true. Maybe suddenly the Speaker of the House can control the Senate. Maybe all of a sudden the oceans will open up. People will walk on water. Oh, it'll be a grand thing. You see, I don't trust politicians. Particularly politicians who I know are lying to you, the American people, my audience. I don't trust them. Now we'll see what happens. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Now, the people who claim to be conservatives and claim to be enlightened, they'll think this is all about Kevin McCarthy, which, of course, it's not. That's where Gaetz is. It's always been all about McCarthy. He'll take people like Emmers, who's a liberal Republican, in the leadership. Or he'll take any of the lieutenants to Kevin McCarthy. But now it's time for those of us who are true conservatives and constitutionalists and actually understand how the Constitution works, that a small majority in the House doesn't control the government. Now it's time for us to make some red lines. If they don't eliminate most of that $33 trillion debt in the next few months, then that's on Mr. Gaetz, who kept bringing it up. If they don't pass a bill that cuts domestic spending by 30%, then that's on Mr. Gaetz. If they don't get not just a bill out of all the appropriations committees, 12 of them, but if they don't get conservative bills, 12 of them, across the finish line, then that's on Mr. Gaetz. There's a lot on Mr. Gaetz. He made a lot of promises like a leftist. He made a lot of assurances like the leftist. Just get McCarthy out of the way and all this will get done. Okay, pal. Now you're on our radar. I'll be right back.
The cost of freedom is high, but this phone call is not. Call Mark Levin toll-free at 877-381-3811.
This is the other damn problem. We've been on a roll as conservatives. Taking it to the Democrats, their corruption, impeachment inquiry, all the rest of it. The polls for Republicans, the generic polls, have been on the rise. So that momentum has been stopped now. We'll see how that turns out. But we certainly handed a lot of propaganda to the Democrats, to Biden, to Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries. And I have to be honest with you. When I wrote this book, The Democrat Party Hates America, I even put in this book that there's something terribly wrong with the Republican Party. It's filled with people who don't want to fight. It's filled with people who are out of this establishment, and they give aid and comfort, whether wittingly or unwittingly, to the Democrat Party. I never originally aimed that at these 8 reprobates. I was aiming it at McConnell and those reprobates. But as I sit here and think about this, Ken Buck with his Liz Cheney friend, Nancy Mace with her feminist agenda, whatever that means, and her gun control agenda, whatever that means, and Matt Gaetz with his own weirdo stuff going on, and Andy Biggs, Mr. Anti-Convention of States, which so many millions of us think is the only way out of this. They've done at least as much damage as Mitch McConnell just did. I talk over and over again about McConnell making deals with Schumer. And so I guess we're supposed to ignore the fact that Gaetz made a deal with the Democrats and was working them behind the scenes and wants suckers to be donating to his campaign, even though he's in a 20-point Republican majority district and has no chance of losing. I don't take money from special interests because you don't have to. You're in one of the safest seats in America. But you do worse. You gave aid and comfort to the Marxists. Doesn't matter how many TV shows you go on. Doesn't matter how many incompetent hosts talk to you. The true patriots aren't buying your crap. They're just not. All those Trump supporters in the Freedom Caucus, they're not buying his crap. Donald Trump's not buying his crap. But he had to put it in a very sort of PC way. Why are Republicans always fighting with each other except for the left-wing Democrats? It's a good question. And the thing is, we were united in the House, Republicans, to take on the Democrats, to take on Biden, to take on Mitch McConnell. And I heard one host not too long ago talk about we're sick of these omnibus bills coming out. Even in this last 45-day deal, you heard what they said on the floor, the conservatives. Not the 8 anarchists, the conservatives. They said McCarthy rejected it. He said, no, we're not going to do that. And so he didn't do it. He could have done it if he'd been Boehner. Even Paul Ryan, he didn't do it. Maybe it'll be Jim Jordan. Maybe it'll be Byron Donalds, maybe it'll be these fantastic conservatives and so forth. See this, we told you we would change everything. It doesn't change everything. Byron Donalds was the one who negotiated, among others, that deal that these people shot down. Jim Jordan is overseeing the Judiciary Committee and was attacked by Matt Gaetz, Machine Gun Gaetz, flailing around, issues floating around, saying things he knows we're upset about the debt, but makes it like that can be fixed rather easily. They don't even have the votes. They don't run the Senate. They certainly can't get a supermajority together to override a veto. I think I'll send a copy of the Constitution to Gaetz so he can figure it out, as well as my book. Because the Democrat Party is killing this country. It's destroying our country. And you make a deal with Hakeem Jeffries to take out Kevin McCarthy, everybody's scratching their head. Everybody. This is part of the problem. There was so much I wanted to get to today, but needed to deal with what I needed to deal with. Justice Arthur Engoron, this guy is a kook, and he's getting creepier by the day the more we learn about him. That's the New York judge in the so-called trial against Donald Trump. Here's what he said in March 2015 at a lecture to college students. Hat tip. Well, it's on Twitter. So I hat tip Twitter, I guess. Cut 4, go.
Now, I'm going to say something controversial, even though I'm being taped. Juries get it wrong a lot. That's my own opinion. I do only civil trials, personal injury cases, contract disputes. But I've had situations where, like, oh my heaven's sake, how could they have thought that? Well, I have a tool that I can deal with that. It's called judgment notwithstanding the verdict. I can say there is no possible way that a reasonable jury would have reached that conclusion. And all right, am I following the law or am I making law? Okay, I'm following law. I'm an impartial referee, but it's hard to factor out my own emotions. And I have tools. Somebody can say, well, Your Honor, you have to throw out this case because it's just like another case. Well, is it just like another case? What if the defendant was wearing a red sweater instead of a blue sweater? Oh, and by the way, I worked for the Columbia Daily Spectator for a couple of weeks. What happened was I went there every day and I wrote a few stories. One I got criticized on because I wrote that some Ku Klux Klanners had murdered some people, and I was told, you can't say that. How do we know? You weren't there. Well, that was what everybody thought. But anyway, yeah, we should have absolute immunity. What if we defame somebody? That's how it usually comes up. You know, you call somebody a murderer or a heroin addict, that sort of thing, a pedophile. If it's done in court, yeah, I think we should have absolute immunity.
Good Lord. What a rambling buffoon. A rambling buffoon. This guy is on the wrong side of the courtroom, Mr. Producer. They should be getting him checked out to make sure he's not mentally deficient. But you see what a pompous ass he is. It's really quite incredible. And this is the judge. This is the judge who's going to make the decisions, he says. So it really doesn't matter if there's a jury there if he disagrees with it. Isn't that what he said, Mr. Producer? I've got a tool in the toolbox, you know. And he's saying by that jury nullification. That is almost never done by a judge. And he acts like I can do it routinely if I choose to. If something really weird happens, sure. That's not the test. And I don't know what he was rambling on about his 2 weeks working for a newspaper. It's really bizarre. And I want you to hear Ken Buck on MSNBC yesterday, Liz Cheney's buddy. He's on MSNBC. He wants to work for MSNBC or CNN. He's interviewing with them while he's a member of Congress and voting on these things. And he's on with Jen Psaki, of all people. He goes on Jen Psaki's show. Now, why does she bring him on? Because she knows he's a useful idiot. Jen Psaki, who's been lying to us and lying to us and lying to us some more. Because they want to go on these shows. And they want to be liked. And they want to be the Republican, the go-to Republican. He's on these shows because he's attacking Trump, he's attacking McCarthy, and then he's posing as a conservative. Why would he vote not to block money going to drag queens at the Pentagon? Unless he wants to work for MSNBC or CNN. And yet he's a congressman. One of the eight. One of the 8 great patriots who's going to bail us out. One of the great deficit hawks. Cut 5, go.
I do want to ask you before I let you go just about the threats that we've heard from Donald Trump, because the rhetoric and the language we've heard in the courtroom today, but also we've heard from him out on the campaign trail, we know that it's dangerous. The threats are increasing. Your colleague, Dan Goldman, said that he wished more people would be more outspoken about that. What do you say to that?
I was a prosecutor for 25 years, Jen. I take the threats very seriously. I think that if you're innocent, you act like you're innocent. And
That's right. If you're accused of rape, keep your mouth shut, especially if you didn't do the crime. If you have 91 federal and state indictments against you, and you're going broke trying to pay your defense lawyers, and you're trying to run for president, but you can't be in New Hampshire, Iowa, or South Carolina, and you keep giving more fuel to your general election opponent or to your Republican opponents, just keep your mouth shut. If you're innocent, you're not going to say anything. No, quite the contrary, Ken. If somebody makes a horrific allegation against you or is trying to destroy your businesses that you spent a lifetime building up, trying to destroy you personally, lying about you in these crazy-ass courtrooms, Ken Buck says, well, if you're innocent, you keep your mouth shut. No, if you're innocent, you open your mouth. And you tell anybody who will listen. Anybody who will listen. That you're innocent and what's being done to you. I don't know what Ken Buck, I don't know what planet this guy fell off of. God, how pathetic. One of the great, one of the 8 who want to set this country straight on Jen Psaki's show on MSNBC, which Mediaite, another crackpot, mediocre operation, they so love it. They put a clip out. Ken Buck is all over MSNBC and CNN. He's quoted everywhere. Why? How come Thomas Massie's not? Go ahead.
Be president of the United States again. You respect the rule of law. You respect the process.
No, you don't. You don't respect the rule of law. As so many brilliant men have said, and as we have said, when the rule of law is used to perpetuate injustices, threats, intimidation, and even criminality. So why would you respect that rule of law? Go ahead.
Have a criminal justice system that is fair.
Shut up, you idiot. I've had enough of you. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
I only have a few minutes, but I want to tell you something. I didn't take any callers. I don't know you want to talk. And I didn't mention this, and I'm not until the end, because I wanted to get an indication of where my audience is, you. We have a full board. Mr. Call Screener tells me scores of people that he had to screen out. One raised some level of support for Matt Gaetz. Every other person calling into the program was disgusted. I've got a full board here. I can't even go to a caller. Hilton Head, South Carolina, Melissa, WTKS, furious. Paul, Fairfield, Connecticut, WABC, 28 years old, furious. James, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Mark Levin app, furious. Mark, Dillon, South Carolina, disgusted. Patrick, Philadelphia, WPHT, the death of the GOP was speaker fight, not time for infighting. Catherine, Vancouver, Washington, KUFO, Gaetz won the battle, but he won't win the war. Gave the GOP a black eye. This is what you think, and you're correct. I don't mind the battle wounds if it's a battle that's intended to win a war or can win a war. No general on the face of the earth can survive winning a battle, and then blowing out the army. And then deceiving people into believing that it wasn't him. He had the greatest battle plan on the face of the earth. It's everybody else. They just won't listen. How much time do I have, Mr. Producer? Not enough. Well, we'll be here tomorrow. I didn't even have time to get into the Democrat Party hates America because here we are, diverted from our mission, which is saving the country. I want to salute all of you, great patriots, the smartest audience of all. You're not fooled by any politicians, Democrat, Republican, or in between, and that's why I love you. Grab your copy of the Democrat Party Hates America. You won't find it at Barnes & Noble, but everywhere else. See you tomorrow.